Hello again, Stove Minders. It's Friday, January 22nd, 2021. The end of what has been a blazing hot week in the baseball universe. Multiple moves on the daily. It's been hard for me to keep up, to be honest, and I have to start this episode off with a few omissions from the last video where I was talking Blue Jays and their two new marquee signings. If you've been following the George Springer sweepstakes, you know that besides the Jays, the other finalists were the New York Mets. And despite the promised luxury of new owner Steve Cohen, they did not meet Springer's demands for $150 million. The Mets went as high as 6 years, $120 million. And Springer took the extra $5 million a year to play for the Jays. The Mets' outfield situation is similar to Toronto's in that they have good bats out there, but no solid defensive options, while Springer is an above-average fielder. Without him, the Mets will continue to deploy Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, and Michael Conforto. Not a bad group to have in the lineup, but look for New York to maybe add a more defensive outfielder to the bench, like Albert Almora or Kevin Pillar, or even a Jackie Bradley Jr. if they really want to be aggressive. And it's also been revealed that the Atlanta Braves were in on Springer until the very end. That's not something we heard at all. Blue Jays also signed Kirby Yates, a big addition to a bullpen that I forgot to talk about other than the fact that they lost closer Ken Giles to injury and then free agency. In 2020, the Jays pen ranked 24th in the majors with an ERA of .471. Indeed, Toronto has tabled an offer to the best remaining free agent closer Brad Hand, which would form an insane end-of-the-game tandem if they do land him. Kirby's old club, the San Diego Padres, missed out on re-signing him. They didn't get too much out of Yates, struggled in 2020, but the rest of the relief corps stood up. Guys like Drew Pomeranz and Pierce Johnson, along with Cal Quantrill and Matt Stram. Emilio Pagan is there as well, so no worries for the dads. All right, now I can get to the deals that I've missed, starting with another big piece coming off the market in outfielder Michael Brantley. He's staying in Houston. Signed a new 2-year, $32 million contract with the Astros. Okay, so this deal came the day after Springer signed with the Blue Jays, and after a reporter from a network, Sportsnet, owned by the same company that owns the Jays, talking to Rogers, Mrs. Hazel May tweeted that Toronto had finalized the deal with Brantley and that it was pending a physical, and then they had to retract that statement, and then hours later, like literally hours, Brantley signed with the Astros. I wonder if that had anything to do with him turning around and going home, or what the situation there was. Some intrigue, but here we are. Brantley is staying put in South Texas. Length was always going to be a problem for Brantley, a 33-year-old with a long history of injuries. But despite that, since 2017, he's managed to stay mostly healthy and very effective to that. 3 All-Star nominations in 4 years, slashing a cumulative 307, 365, 476. That's a 122 OPS plus. He's been good. And on a year-to-year basis, Brantley has consistently put up those kind of numbers. There was no single season where he just went off and to skew the stats. Talking about a guy guaranteed to bat 300 plus. That goes a long way in this business, as does the ability to swing so much while striking out less than 70 times a year, something Brantley has done since 2012. Wow, what a patient individual. This guy's a fantastic batsman, and while there have been surgeries and such, 2 years ago he hit 40 doubles. Dude can still play. Although he has added lots of designated hitting time to his regular position of left field, and with a quad injury added to the list in 2020, you have to wonder how often Brantley can be deployed out in the grass. Still, it's just a 2-year deal for a guy who can hit like few others. I'm sure the Astros are stoked to have him back, even more so after losing Springer. Apparently, the Astros made no attempt to re-sign Springer after he rejected their $18.9 million qualifying offer, so I guess they sat back to wait on Brantley, and good on them that they did. As far as the rest of the Astros outfield situation, Josh Reddick is also a free agent, meaning the current Astros outfield consists of former top prospect Kyle Tucker, who granted has done well, not exceptionally, but he's done well since coming to the majors, and other young players like Miles Straw and Chas McCormick. Wow, great names down there in Houston. Thus, I fully expect Houston to try and sign another outfielder off the market, whether it's Josh Reddick coming back or somebody else, or else they're going to have to rely a lot on these youngins and on Michael Brantley, who, as I mentioned, can't play left field every single day, and they also have Yordan Alvarez as their DH, and that guy apparently can't be out in the field. So, yes, outfield top on the priority list for the Astros, especially after they signed catcher Jason Castro to a 2-year contract with $7 million guaranteed and $2 million in incentives. The 33-year-old Castro will rejoin the club he played for from 2010 to 2016, choosing Houston over the Tigers and the Cubs. With Martin Maldonado also in the clubhouse, the Astros boast a pretty good defensive catching tandem, though the word is that Maldonado, who has performed better behind the plate in recent years, will continue to be their primary catcher. No doubt Maldonado's familiarity with the pitching staff is also a factor. As for Jason Castro, the Astro, he's a career .230 hitter with a .702 OPS, a bit of pop in his bat, and maybe an above-average hitter as far as catchers go, though he does strike out a lot. Defensively, Castro was once a great framer who has trailed off towards the mean since having a knee surgery in 2018. Still a fair option, especially as a backup. And the Astros were rumored to be in on Castro for a while, so no surprises here. This deal and the new Brantley contract, which will pay him $16 million a year, just a notch above the yearly value that DJ LeMahieu, another contact first hitter, received in his 6-year contract with the New York Yankees. This all leaves Houston with $150 million in payroll, heading into a momentous year, potentially a crossroads, because after 2021, the Astros will see Carlos Correa, Justin Verlander, and Zach Greinke all become eligible for free agency. Verlander and Greinke, the two legends at the top of the rotation, do account for over $57 million in salary at the moment, so that should open up some space. Indeed, Correa has recently come out and said that he's very interested in an extension to stay in Houston, and considering how much that guy has stood up in the midst of the Astros cheating scandal and become basically the main Astros apologist in this whole situation, more so than anybody except maybe their owner. I think the Astros owe him some big money. Anyway, also Alex Bregman, their third baseman, his salary jumps from $11 million to $28.5 million in 2023. So some financial footwork will be required of Astros general manager James Click as his team's window winds down. It'll be interesting to see how far they can go with their current roster now that they've lost their leadoff hitter and one of their top run producers in George Springer. All right, let's get to some pitching. More arms coming off the market, particularly left-handers, and particularly on 1-year, $8 million deals. That's exactly the situation regarding Jose Quintana and Happ. Let's start with Q. He's going to the Angels, the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles. Move they needed to make. We've talked a lot about how that team is severely lacking pitching, though in a little bit I'll point out how maybe that changed in 2020. But first, Quintana. The Colombian has had a long reputation as a solid workhorse, which, like many things, ran into a ditch in 2020 when he cut his thumb open while washing the dishes. Yeah. He's also declined a bit from his years with the White Sox. Since the start of 2017, Quintana's posted a 4.28 ERA and a 3.95 FIP with a neat ERA plus of 100 right on average. Still, his strikeout and walk numbers are decent, though there is something to be said about the quality of contact against him. Soon to be 34 years old, still a solid number 3 or 4 option in a rotation for a team like the Angels. I think you use a couple of those guys, to be honest. At least that's been the narrative. Although this past year, they managed to get quality out of former bust Dylan Bundy, came out of nowhere. And a couple of young arms in Griffin Canning, who's been one of their top prospects, and Jaime Barria. Not to mention a healthy Andrew Heaney. It's wishful thinking to assume that all those guys will turn out the same in 2021, with Shohei Ohtani expected to pitch again, so the addition of Quintana will at least provide depth and experience to the Angels' rotation. And as for the Angels' payroll, that now stands at $163 million. Which could imply that the Anaheim is out of the running for Trevor Bauer, but not so, according to MLB.com's Mark Feinsand, who reported it's believed that the Angels and the Mets are the finalists for Bauer, with the Dodgers and Blue Jays also in the mix for the top free agent pitcher. And one of the few top free agents, period. I mean, think about this past week. Brantley, Springer, and LeMahieu have all been signed. Kirby Yates and Liam Hendricks have both been signed. I mean, JT Realmuto is still out there. There's all those infielders like Gregorius and Semien and Turner. Carlos Santana also off the board. We're getting in there. The market is starting to be depleted. All right, let's go up to Minnesota, where the Twins have signed left-handed starting pitcher Happ also to a 1-year, $8 million contract. Happ is a true veteran at 38 years old and 14 seasons in the bigs. He's been a bit of an up and downer in the last few seasons with the Yankees. And while I won't say that he's bad, Happ is a back-end starter. Career ERA of 3.98 to contrast a FIP of 4.22. And that's one thing the Twins need behind Kenta Maeda, Jose Berrios, and Michael Pineda. However, Minnesota has also seen Jake Odorizzi and Rich Hill hit the free agent market this winter. Whether or not Happ will be an adequate replacement remains to be seen. He does become their 4th highest paid player, which tells you all you need to know about the Twins. They don't spend money. They will probably make some other smaller moves this winter after a 2019-20 offseason that saw them acquire Maeda, who turned out almost a Cy Young quality season, and Josh Donaldson. It'll be tough to hold on to the AL Central with the White Sox looking dead serious. As it stands, they could stand to add another starter to the back of the rotation, unless they want to get an in-house option. Let's skirt through some rumors. I know some other deals happened this morning. Jurickson Profar's going back to the Padres. Cubs signed some catcher. The Marlins did something. But let's talk rumors, things that haven't happened. The Detroit Tigers are apparently shopping. They've shown interest in utility man Marwin Gonzalez, although so have his old team, the Minnesota Twins. And the Tigers have been in on first baseman Mitch Moreland. Cincinnati Reds. The one area they seem to be interested in improving this winter is shortstop. And to that effect, they've inquired about Andrelton Simmons, free agent and a multiple-time Gold Glover. And the Atlanta Braves are circling the wagons on JT Realmuto. Of course, his old team, the Phillies, are very much in on him too. They have tabled offers that have become public, 5 years, $100+ million. But the Mets and Blue Jays have seemingly cooled off on Realmuto, with the Jays dedicating some big money. George Springer and the Mets apparently being quite serious about Trevor Bauer. So it's the Nationals, Braves, and Phillies left in the running, perhaps, for Realmuto, an all-Eastern affair, almost an all-NL East affair. And if you factor in the fact that Realmuto previously played for the Marlins, this guy just can't leave that division. He just can't. But yeah, interesting to hear the Braves coming out and being aggressive. Not something that front office has done in recent years. They've been rather cautious and relying on their in-house options. And it's been successful, granted. I mean, that's been a very productive farm system. But for 2 straight winters now, the Braves have gone early, like November, and just signed all the old pitchers that they needed, and been like, all right, that's good. But if they can go and get Realmuto, that'd be huge, because that NL East is getting competitive with what the Mets have been doing. And Kris Bryant. All right. KB has come out and said what we Cubs fans have long known. Quote, I don't have that joy right now. Yeah, highlighting how 3 years of trade rumors have gotten to him and how he's not having fun anymore. As a Cubs caster, let me tell you, okay, Bryant has looked miserable out there for the last few seasons. I'm sure he's also mad that his performance has been bad and he's received a lot of criticism to that effect. He's had multiple injuries. They look like they have messed up his swing mechanics. Like, he just does not look like the same player that he was in 2016-17. It's unfortunate to see a guy just lose love for something, like in real time. Just to have no heart out there, it's tough. It's tough. But getting into a contract year, I really hope KB, does something. Maybe he hits like 240 or something. That'd be cool. I've been a relentless KB critic, and he has not taken that criticism well at all. Make of that what you will, stove miners, and make something, because the stove is still hot. Perfect for making some super something. It's cold outside, but the stove is hot.